Now broadcasting another episode with myths and stories. We've got Mythborn and Zorialis taking us on a journey that is interesting and mystical. Anyhow, take it away.
That is quite the endorsement.
Mythical. No. A story as old as Destiny itself, if not older.
Exactly. What are you guys talking about today?
So, big reveal Tuesday, last Tuesday. Holy crap! Holy crap! Like, there's so much in that Myth and I have gone through pretty much frame by frame, and we've tried to kind of like condense this down as little as possible. But both of he and I, as usual, have realized ain't gonna happen. So
there is no condensing in Destiny lore.
There is not. You just kind of roll with it. So I'm gonna kind of start. I'm starting to get used to kind of like a format now. This is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And so like I want to start out with like some myths. Like one of the first myths we saw was or that we as the community, we as the Destiny community cultivated, was that very first screenshot we saw. God, it had to have been 3-4 months ago, where it was that lone hunter with a green background. Mm-hmm. Right, and it looked like there was like a dreg behind him or something, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's old Chicago, or it's like the swamps of the South." Like, "Oh my God, we're gonna visit everything." None of that is true. at least from what I saw from the trailer, I do not believe that to be true at all.
I do not believe that to be true either. Which, funny enough, is kind of the whole theme of the trailer / the expansion.
Right?
Is whatever you thought is
what is true
is likely not the truth.
What is truth?
So I've got the trailer pulled up here, so I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna go through it to let it remind me of the key points, and we can kind of get a timeline of how the trailer works.
Absolutely.
Or keep in line with where things happen in the trailer. But I think prior to that, it's good to kind of have a little mini discussion, not terribly in depth, but just who is Sabathun? Who is this big bad that is the key
Sabathun.
Point of everything going forward?
Well, in my eyes, she's everyone. Like,
I mean,
anyone I come across as sus, that's Sabathun.
So, got a little bit more information about how Sabathun's song works. Got a
I was looking more into like the physicalness of it, like the worm itself and everything there. But
that too. Yeah. So I say, but I'm gonna save that for when it actually shows up in the trailer, or when we get to some of the gameplay aspects. But Sabathun herself, the very general overview. She is the sister to Oryx, the Taken King. And her other sibling is Sivu Arath, who also takes part in the current season, at the very least, but I expect she will take part in much more as time goes on. She is generally referred to as the Hive God of trickery or deception or lies, and she kind of is all of that and is none of that all at the same time. And her main motivation as we know it in game right now.
It's so hard to talk about anything about her because it's trickery. Like,
yeah.
How do you define trickery? How do you define deception? When you're told something, you don't even know if what you're being told is truth. Like,
everything coming out of her mouth. Everything she's ever written, every reference to her, you have to assume an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess before we dive more into her, I'm going to go through the trailer a bit here, because some of this is just going to come up. So the beginning of the trailer is 3 Guardians in that like jungly, swampy area that we saw in the teaser. I say they're walking through the swampy area, very much looking for something, and I did take note a little bit here because it kind of hops back and forth between these guardians and Ikora at like this mission board, with all the red lines connecting
Yeah,
stuff and whatnot.
I was trying,
Um,
and that mission board, the location of that one seemed odd to me. Like it looked like a very much like a desert or a mountainous, like just kind of like a barren
yeah,
place.
so I'm not sure where that's taking place, if that's another area of Sabathune's throne world, or if that's somewhere else entirely. And actually, this brings us into a good point here. Okay, so um, there are some very interesting things on her mission board uh,
Oh,
that
I didn't even
are
think to
worthy
look at
of
her mission
pointing out.
board.
So there's one thing that I don't want to talk about quite yet because
Okay.
it's a bigger topic later on. But one thing that I thought was very interesting is her mission board has the D1 map of Mars on it.
Oh shit.
And that I don't know that that's where she is, but it would have the same kind of geographical like
Yeah,
feel
that
to
would
it, kind of
absolutely
that
like that, and when I
dusty
first saw it with
plateau.
that redness to it, like that's
Mhm.
anytime redness is referenced in Destiny, my mind instantly either goes to Mercury or Mars. But in a solar system sense, the red planet, Mars, like that's all synonymous. That's
Yeah.
is what that is to me
So
at least.
this could be a little teaser that maybe Sabathune's throne world is the main location, but maybe Mars plays a part as well. And
Which
Mars in a way we
go
haven't interacted with since D1.
I was going to say, which going back to a few episodes ago with the Glycon and where their
Mm-hmm.
trip went into the gravity well that was Mars,
That
or
was
that is
Mars.
Mars now.
So yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know how Mars would reappear and she would be on it, but it plays enough of a role that they used it as window dressing on her board.
Yeah.
Um, and I have to feel that was intentional.
Oh, sure.
But so
So
the
that's a thing
mhm.
too. When I think of like missions and stuff, we don't. Anytime we have a that we go to, we don't necessarily go straight to that area. Like even thinking to like Forsaken, where you know I'd say the real story of Forsaken opens up in the Dreaming City, and you don't even go to the Dreaming
Yeah,
City till after you beat the main story, and
yeah,
the
and
whole
they
story takes place on Tango Shore. So that's where like
mhm.
that jungle scene. I'm curious if we might have just like a single little like solo like, hey, find this thing, and that might be in Old Chicago or something. So that's
Well, the jungle I'm pretty sure is confirmed to be part of the throne world.
okay.
Now they could throw a switcheroo and be like, her throne world has a swamp, and we're also going to Old Chicago, which just so happens to be a swamp. So you don't know what footage is from what. That would be
Ooh,
possible.
trickery and deception. Ooh.
But they did confirm in when they were speaking about the throne world that um, it is surrounded by a dark swamp
Okay.
is how they referenced it. So I think that's where we're at.
Then
Um,
I'm going to say that Old Chicago is not happening, which is fine. That's
yeah,
neither a good nor a bad thing. It's just like a oh dang.
yeah. It's just it's not what we thought.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so we're in the trailer. We have the Guardians are going around, and we're getting some shots back and forth between now the Guardians and Sabathun, who's descending into this pool of water or whatever. Um, and we have some voice lines from her coming over. Uh, and although the voice lines are throughout the entirety of the trailer, I'm just gonna say them all here,
Sure.
because they don't give away any other parts of the trailer. But she says, "Truth is a funny thing. Does it live in the world or in the mind? Is it constant or can it be bent? Who decides what is true? In this universe of light and dark, there is no greater power. Tell me, little lights, what is your truth now?" And I found That dialogue, very
that word
interesting.
constant. That word constant. That's gonna be we're gonna come across that a lot tonight.
Well, and I think yes, and I think there's a specific line that is important as well. So she asks, "Who decides what is true?" Question mark. In this universe of light and dark, there is no greater power. And the way that she says that, the way she punctuates that line, I think she's implying that the person, the being that has the ability to decide what is to write the story, essentially, to decide what is true and what is not true, that is the ultimate power. Not light, not dark. It's whatever it is that gets to write the story of the victory, essentially.
I like that.
Which I think gives a little bit of her motivations.
Oh, sure.
It leads into some of her motivations. And this also mirrors, in a way, some of Mara's tendencies around keeping secrets rather than letting a truth be out to, become twisted by others' interpretations. Like Mara would rather people have a mystery than give them a truth that they turn into whatever they think it is.
Yeah,
which
is
similar in a lot of ways. Yeah.
I didn't make that connection, but damn, dude, I like that.
So we're back at the trailer here. Guardians are patrolling through these swamps as we see Sabathun kind of still messing around in this water, slowly descending. Now, one of the Guardians pulls out like a canister type looking thing. I don't know what that is.
I think this canister is going to be the source of mystery for like the next year. Like the first thought that everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's corruption magic, and he's using corrupted power as from the darkness, and that's our next thing." Confirmed by Bungie, there is no new subclass in year 5. So could it be? Sure. Are we going to get to play with it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No. Not at this point. At the very least. Yeah, they've said year 5 there is no new subclass. They did confirm they are working on another dark subclass.
Yes.
But that we will not see it in year 5 at all. So
and something a lot of the community has kind of pulled together and agreed upon as far as like a new subclass. If Bungie's going to pull in a new subclass, that's going to be like that's
going to be front and center. Yeah,
like that's like when we look exactly like when Beyond Light came out or was even being showcased, it was crazy everywhere, stasis crystals everywhere, shattering everywhere, like every single scene. I don't think that entire trailer had one frame that didn't have something to do with stasis in it.
Yeah. That was the big selling point. And I mean, it made a lot of sense. Like, you want to show off, hey, we got this awesome new ability, come buy our thing. So I would expect a similar showcase.
Absolutely.
When they
have
new
subclasses these Guardians are going to get to wield throughout this universe is going to be it's going to be front and center for Bungie.
Yeah. So yeah, there's this canister. Don't know what it is. It could just be window dressing for the trailer. It could be a patrol beacon. It could be all sorts of things, but it's not very clear, and we never see it show up again in the trailer. And it cuts to a very interesting scene with Ikora, where she's at her board again, and she's kind of like pinning things up. And here we notice that on her board, she has a picture of Osiris with a circle around it and a question mark, which seems to indicate to me that she still doesn't know where he is.
Ooh.
So I don't know, is that because Sabathun didn't actually give him back? Is that because Osiris was given back but was in such a state that he fled, or I don't know. But that implies to me that something is still going on with Osiris, and the end of this season does not give him back to us.
This, like, we know the next expansion is Witch Queen. We know it deals with Sabathun. As far as this season, we know that Osiris / Sabathun is trapped in a thing of rock and ice, and we'll go into more of that later. But as far as like where this season is going, we have no idea. It feels very like you in your head you're just like, I know where this is going. This is gonna follow this path, and we're gonna walk this path together. And we have no idea. This thing could go completely sideways. Sabathun is not to be trusted. Anything she says is not to be trusted for sure. We don't know if her deal with us as the Guardian, hey, I'll give you Osiris back. I mean, we're bordering on like wish magic here. Like, I'll give him back, but we don't know. Like, I'll give like his head back to you on a pike or something. Like, we don't know what her version of giving him back is.
Well, and have you read the bow, the seasonal bow?
I haven't yet. I didn't get a chance to read it yet.
So I won't tell you everything about it, but it is written from the perspective of Osiris as Sabathun has possessed his body, and he's watching all the things she is doing as him.
So he's conscious this whole time. It's not like
he's conscious in his body. She has essentially just pushed his mind to the back and is full control of him, but he can still see and hear everything that's happening.
Holy shit!
And it is heart-wrenching, honestly.
Yeah.
Because he talks about her interactions with Zavala, he talks about her interactions with Ikora, he talks about her interactions with Saint, and the entire time he's like screaming from inside his own head for somebody to notice that something's not right.
Oh god. That's gotta be like, oh my gosh, dude! The one that gets me there is Saint, right? Like that's his man. Like that's Satan and Osiris. Man. That ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Highly recommend reading that lore card. It is superbly written. It is quite a tearjerker. But yeah,
well,
so that's
on the next 3 seconds. You keep going. I'm gonna go find this boat real quick.
So the other thing that we see is it's panning back and forth between the Guardians and the Ikora. The Guardians come across this spire of some sort with what I think is a thrall, like hanging upside down in it. It looks very alien to me, like very like Prometheus alien movie to me, and I have no idea what it means.
Is that the like the thrall statue with like the flowers coming out of its mouth?
No. This is later on in the trailer.
Okay.
There's a set of like black spires with what looks like a thrall cocooned inside of one of them, hanging upside down with like stuff leading to and from it. Like it looks like an experiment, like specimen kind of thing.
Gross, but awesome.
So I don't know what that is, but it's cool, is what. So the Guardians take note of this, and they're continuing to walk. And one of them pulls out this like watch type device, and is messing with this watch, and these circles and triangle emblems like pop up, and seem to be giving like a reading of some sort, like scanning for something.
They look very much like symbols of the Nine to me, so and that just could be just sheer coincidence.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if they're symbols of the Nine because I didn't see any direct correlation. Like the symbols of the Nine use a lot of the same geography.
Yep.
Yes. Not geography.
No, you're right. Like that because when you look at the guns,
same shapes.
Even in the guns, those shapes they're identical on each gun of the prophecy gun.
Yeah. But where we do see those symbols are duplicated on some sheets on Ikora's war table here in the trailer, and I have not been able to track them down for the life of me, but they also appear. I've seen screenshots where they also appeared on playing cards that I'm pretty sure belong to the Drifter during that cutscene where he was playing cards against the Dredgen.
Yeah, like yes, that are in their symbols in D1 on the map, and each planet had like a dot series.
Yep. So I think that's what those are.
Which that's always been speculated to be tied to the 9 as well.
And it very well could be. You know, it's similar enough that maybe that was the tower's way of formulating, you know, of tracking the 9 before the 9 gave us symbols to identify them by. I don't know, but there's similarities there. We have seen these before, which is interesting that they're showing up here. So now the Guardians.
As a real quick pause, I did just read that bow.
Yeah. It's rough.
It's rough, man. It's rough. It's rough. The one person in that, the EXO, I'm assuming that's Blackme.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. No. Which is funny too, because here, like, at least from my reading of this, it seems like even Lakshmi is either influenced or possessed or infected.
Oh, I think she absolutely is. I mean, the city is literally singing her song at this point. Like, I don't think there's anyone in the city that isn't influenced in some way.
Yep.
And we can. So I'm gonna actually use that as a way to diverge a little bit into Sabathun's song and what we've learned about how it works.
Not to completely derail from the trailer and everything, but
not to completely derail, but this is This is an important bit here as to like how and why Sabathun ended up being as ingrained as she is, I think.
Okay.
So there's a lore card, and I did not note what it is on, but it's from this season, where I believe it's one of the guns, if I recall, where Sabathun, materializes out of the Ahamkara skull sitting above Shax. And Shax, being himself, notices her presence and turns to her, turns around in the, only with the reflexes the Crucible Master can have, turns around gun in hand and is inches from firing a shot into her when she starts humming her song. And when she starts humming it, it like puts him into a trance, and he starts humming it back, and essentially like that's the trigger to like, oh, okay, everything's fine. Like he can't see her, he doesn't notice her anymore as he's humming her song.
Holy shit.
So it seems to be a means of at least pacification.
Something.
But some level of control.
Yeah.
Right.
Something. Because like oh my god. And like this song has literally been around forever. Like it has literally been around forever. It is played on our consoles for like years.
Mm-hmm. the title music,
which is terrifying, because that means we as the Guardian have also technically been infected. But the one instance of the song that I still find the most interesting is back when Saint is freed from the timelines, and I it might be when you're getting the Bastion gun, or maybe it's not. I don't remember. I know it's a mission that takes place in the Twilight Gap map, and you're running around.
Maybe it is for Bastion. Regardless.
Anyway, so you're running around. You're picking up all these aid points that Osiris is talking about, or Saint's talking about, and Osiris is kind of picking on them, and they have their little back and forth there. And I guess at the end, and Shax comes into the mission, and so he and Saint are talking, and Saint talks about sing me a song, and Shax's like, I don't know any songs, man. He's like, come on, you've got to know at least one song or something, Shax kind of racks his brain for a bit, and he sits back and he thinks, and he goes, "Well, there was that one that Eris taught me." And he starts singing it, and the tune is Sabathune's song. Like the words, I'm definitely, the I'm on the moon, it's made of cheese. Yeah, so that tune is the song. The words mean nothing.
Yeah, it's just the musical tune.
Every time it's been sung, it is just the tune that means something. Which is funny, because then there's another lore card, when you go talk to Eris, it's you as the Guardian talking to Eris, and she goes, "I never taught him that. I don't know where he even heard that from."
Which makes me wonder, well, we're just gonna derail at this point, because
we're gonna derail for a second. So we're gonna Sabathune song for just a second here.
Yep. So Joe Blackburn, during an interview after the showcase, with, I think it was Gamer Rants or GameSpot or one of those, said that Sabathune...
Yes, please sponsor us.
Yes. Said that Sabathune can take many forms, and the one in the trailer that we see is only one of those forms. And we've seen in other lore cards her impersonate people, or take control of them from afar.
Sure.
Really makes me wonder, maybe Sabathune appearing to be Eris taught Shax that song. Maybe Sabathune, via the Ahamkara skull, was able to implant the idea that Eris taught him that song. That I don't know, but
there's so many ways that this could have played out. Like,
yeah.
we still don't have a clear answer on how and where Shax learned that song, other than Shax telling us he's convinced he learned from Eris, and Eris telling us, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
So you want to know something that is so incredibly cool?
Oh God!
What is the theme of all the perks on the new weapons this season?
They're songs. It's ensemble.
They're all musical themes
and harmony and adagio.
Adagio.
Yeah. See,
Adagio, encore. Yeah.
I'm not very versed in my connection to music was being in a band in high school. Marky says I'm not allowed to say the name because we have to keep it PG, but it has something to do with genitalia. That's all I'm going to say.
We can infer, yeah.
We can infer, yes. And I played guitar then, but I never actually learned like my son. He plays clarinet and he's learning music. So for him, like he's starting to learn a lot more of these terms. But like adagio to me, I had to look up what that meant, and it's basically like it's the opposite of a crescendo. From my understanding,
so crescendo would be rising volume.
Yeah.
Decrescendo would be decreasing volume. I have an amount of experience. I have about 8 years playing trumpet, but that was 10 years ago. So I'm pulling on very old memories here.
Yes.
I do not
work
recall
brain go
in particular.
Yeah, I for some reason I remember it being like a now Mystic Penguin over here, she's gonna get it on our face and prove us wrong.
The Google Foo, yeah.
Oh, she's put down the controller and she is. Oh, this is getting real. Oh, slower tempo. Okay.
Oh, slower tempo. Okay,
slowing
tempo
over
based.
Okay.
Regardless, the point being made,
every
they're
single
all
perk
music-based perks. Which just seems too much of a coincidence.
It does.
Considering Sabathun is revealed, and we know
Mystic
her
says there are no
she is.
coincidences.
No, she's right. There are no coincidences.
Only truths. No. Anyway, so songs that like, and now there was a strike called Sabathun song.
Yes, and we're going to put a pin in that because that becomes very important later on. in actually just this next section of the trailer, so we can loop ourselves right back around.
Oh, perfect.
So, we're with our guardians in this forest. They're scanning around, seeing all this weird stuff, and these lights start to come in through the trees. And they're looking around like, what is this? What's going on? They just have these lights whizzing past them, flying around overhead. And you don't get a good look. You kind of see them from the back. And they're these little, like, hive, like, they look like face huggers kind of things.
Oh, absolutely.
And we zoom in on these as they come to this pool where Sabathun has been walking into, and it's revealed that these little buggers are Hive Ghosts, and they work exactly like our ghosts do. They have a little blue beam that scans through. It's revealed that in this pool are hundreds of bodies of Hive acolytes and knights and whatnot. And these ghosts are going through and scanning the bodies, and I interpreted it as these Hive Ghosts are working the same way ours do, where they have to find their partner. They have to find the right one.
Absolutely.
And then, scarily enough, once they do discover who their Hive partner is, they resurrect them. Just like ours do.
I think we talked about this a few episodes back. Where the only creatures that we've come across in our universe that have had any interaction with Wolf are the Awoken, us as Guardians, which also entails an Awoken, and some Exos, the Elixni, and a single Cabal, that being Gaul. But we do know that on Io, on Io, that they were trying to manufacture light, like as a tool.
They're trying to replicate
and so, trying to replicate it. So, so that's the fact that Hive now have the light in mass.
So here's a couple questions that we need to ask ourselves at this point.
Okay.
So I think the first question we need to ask is, how did these Hive Ghosts come to be? And we have some really interesting clues to how that might have happened. We know that Osiris, or Sabathun posing as Osiris, the entire time he was in the tower during and after Season of the Hunt, he was researching how to resurrect dead ghosts. Under the guise of trying to bring Segura back.
Right. Like, we thought that was all about, he needs to get Segura back, because in this season, it was, like, he straight up says, as Sabathun says, I've been Osiris this whole time, since the moment you came across me. And in that lore card of the bow, that's absolutely affirmed. Like, that's the very first thing is it talks about the prince helping him up off his feet, and that's the first scene we see is Uldren come as the crow coming over and helping him up off his feet and saving him from the knight, the Hive Knight that was about to take him out.
Which I again, not to derail, but I want to pause a moment. That this means some very heavy implications, not only for Osiris but also for Crow, because when and if we get Osiris back, Osiris has never actually met Uldren, has never actually met Crow. Like, that entire relationship doesn't exist. That's gotta be heartbreaking on the Crow. For Crow, like, this was his mentor in a lot of ways. So, like, I mean, thankfully he has established relationships with other Guardians, including our character. But, like, it's going to be losing that mentor figure.
Who can we just take a real brief second and appreciate Amanda Holiday and how badass she really is, because she rolls through every single one of these battles without a ghost, without the fear of death, without any type of resurrection, light, darkness, hive magic, Hamkara magic, whatever. She just rolls through with a precision frame, hip fire, lever action shotgun that's been in her family for years, and just rocks everyone's world.
Yeah. Yes, we will. Okay, we will all praise the
all praise Amanda Holiday. Yes.
So
in my head, I don't know if this, again, completely derailing again. I'm pretty sure that it's supposed to be like Doc Holliday's like great granddaughter.
I think it's very like lightly implied that might be the case.
Yeah.
You know, without saying, because they probably can't. But
right.
But yeah. But
hooray
yeah,
for copyright infringement. No.
Right. So looping back into how could these ghosts exist? So, Sabathun as Osiris was researching resurrecting dead ghosts, and part of that research, she/he, fake Osiris, we'll just use that.
Yes. Osiris.
Made the request of Crow to acquire dead ghosts from the Spiders collection, and
that blows my mind. That blows my mind. Like first off, for the Crow to be ballsy enough to steal from Spider.
He's been stealing from Spider for a while now and sending the supplies to the Elixir.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. Like for him to be ballsy enough to just steal from the Spider, like, because the Spider was the first one who found Crow right before the season of the hunt happened, after Crow had been resurrected, and Spider implanted a destruction device inside of his ghost shell, to where if he wandered too far, he didn't do what he wanted, he would just blow his ghost up, turn him mortal, and kill him. And then, of course, at the end of the season of the hunt, we free him by virtue of a favor from Spider. And now Crow's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna take shit.
Just fuck that guy.
Yeah. Like, he tried to have me killed multiple times. Can you believe this? Screw that. I'm taking your shit.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Osiris has researched how to revive dead ghosts, and for us, for the Guardian, we're so convinced that he's just trying to get Sagira back. He's collected dead ghosts, so now he has the tools and the resources. He just has to go through the action, or she just has to. It just has to.
So, and in addition to the research that she did, having the tower's resources available to her as Osiris.
That's what blew my mind when Ikora was like, "Well, we'll just leave this with Osiris," and all of us as Guardians are like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, there's so many points there. No, I'm gonna finish this point first, and then I'll.
Yes.
So, not only did Osiris have access to all of the tower's resources and all their research on ghosts and how ghosts work, but as Sabathun had also made a deal in Season of Arrivals with Nokris to trade for Nokris to teach her his art of necromancy. So now she's got Hive necromancy magic and whatever research has been done at the tower and the various connections there.
What is her game?
And between the two, I think, is what allowed her to resurrect these dead ghosts that she acquired through various means as Osiris.
What the hell is her game?
And then the final little piece here, the Strike Sabathun song. It very specifically mentions that Hive magic, and we know all the Hive in there are tied to Sabathun because her name's on the damn thing.
Yep.
It very specifically, Takeo 3 says that the Hive sucked the light out of her fire team and stored them in a crystal.
Yep.
So I'm guessing a combination of dead ghost, necromancy, being able to suck the light out of a current guardian and implant it into something else is how these ghosts came to be. Like, get a dead ghost, resurrect it, and give it, like, charge it with light through sucking it out of something else. Is my current theory.
Okay, so let's play on that theory for a second. We know that at the beginning of the Red War campaign, that Gaul entraps the Traveler, and we literally get separated from the light. Yes. And even our ghost, like the whole time our ghost is talking to us, like even he's like mechanically broken because of it. Like he can't quite talk right at all. Like there's very much a mechanical tone to his voice, and as if it's like a machine breaking. And then when we do come across the Shard of the Traveler, he transmats inside of it and essentially recharges himself with the light, and then channels that through himself into us, therefore recharging us with the light. And that's how we as Guardians in the beginning of Destiny 2, at the beginning of the Red War campaign, get our light back. So we know that it can be tied to the Traveler, but it doesn't necessarily have to be directly from the Traveler, the light itself.
No, I think you replace that Shard of the Traveler in the Red War with a light storing crystal that Sabathun has created, and you would get the same effect. That's what I am guessing.
Exact same effect. So knowing that, like, that's like the thought of her just essentially just transferring light from one to the other. Now we know that okay, so this is keep your little spinful hat on for a bit with me. We know that Oryx read the I can't remember the name of the tomes, but the ones that taught him how to take. It's not the Books of Sorrow, no.
No, I forget what they were called, but yeah, he learned the knowledge of the deep, which taught him how to take,
Which means that somewhere, I'm sure this knowledge of the light is written down. So what's to have kept Sabathun from doing the same thing, just on a different path?
Yeah, no, and there's a couple other pieces that lend into our theories here. So again, on Ikora's warboard in the trailer, she has a picture of the Sabathun song Shrieker, of the boss from the Sabathun song
boss
Strike.
Shrieker.
Yep, that is on her warboard.
We know through Season of Arrivals that each one of those Shriekers is a direct link to Sabathun. Those are literally her eyes into this reality. Because as far as we know, she is either in her own pocket universe, in her own, well, and we're going to touch on this later if we have time. But we know that Sabathun is not here in this realm, short of being inside Osiris.
Right. No, she is attached to this throne world. I guess in the same way that Oryx or Crota are attached to theirs.
Right. Absolutely.
They have a physical manifestation in our reality, and then they have their quote-unquote, like, true manifestation in their throne world.
Because the only way you can kill an Ascendant Hive is in their throne world. And we know this all from D1. Like we ourselves the only way to enter an Ascendant realm is to become Ascendant. We had to do that. We had to take part of Oryx's crystal from his grave and bring it to the witches that were doing the I don't know if I call it a death song, but like his like funeral song for him. Yeah. And we had to imbue this crystal with it, and of course, this whole time we're under the stealth of Eris, I think, and then we get seen.
It was the stealth of Cade.
Was it Cade's stealth?
Yeah, because we stole it from Rasputin. We stole the invisibility tech from Rasputin, which
that's right.
Lo and behold, does not hold up to a Hive throne world all that well.
You mean to tell me that human technology is not going to work inside an ascendant plane of existence?
In a place where they can literally sing you to death? Yeah, just maybe.
That's crazy talk. Crazy talk. Yeah. No, yeah, it's like so as far as like the Shriekers and the Ascendantness and all that stuff, like that main Shrieker boss at the end of Sabathun song is because there's also a crystal in there which is Takeo 3, because as you're descending down, Takeo says, we're gonna, same plan, just give Slow my regards, and so she allows herself. She allows herself to be taken to be the last of that team that goes down there to be crystallized, to be turned into to have the light sucked out of them and turned into crystals. And so I'm curious, because the crystals in the strike, the crystals are used to physically barricade us from continuing on. And so we as Guardians have to shatter these crystals, which then we don't know what happens to the light in it. We don't know if the light just shrivels up and goes away
dissipates.
Like what happens to it. Like we know that the light, from our research, we know that the light is some sort of tool, and there is a physicalness to it, more than just like having a frequency or anything like that. So we don't know if it's literally like a juice or like a cloud or whatever that you just and that's by the way, that's the canon sound that Sabathun, like that's the sound that happens when she sucks the light out of a Guardian, and then puts it in a ghost.
All of this wraps up with the fact that Sabathun has access to Hive Ghosts, which can have access to the light and can resurrect and give light powers to Hive. We now have Hive Guardians, essentially, that we are going to need to deal with.
That are confirmed on Bungie's website as being called the Lucent Brood, right?
The Lucent Brood, yep. So I want to touch on a couple things with Sabathun's Throne World in particular.
Okay.
Because that's essentially the end of that trailer, by the way. It's
yep.
Hive Guardians, and then the Guardians in the swamp clashing with the Hive Guardians in the title screen.
And each one of the Guardians use a very distinctive Guardian power. One of them uses he goes purple and he uses a Sentinel Shield. One of them goes orange and he looks like he's doing Blade Barrage from a Hunter. And then the other one goes blue and he looks like he's doing Lightning Fingers from a Warlock. So yeah,
it appears to be that Acolytes equal Void Titans, Witches equal Arc Warlocks, and Thralls equal Solar Hunters. At least from that.
Hunters, you get nothing. You're just a Thrall.
Which I thought was interesting as well. Now, this could just be gameplay consideration, absolutely.
Right.
But if we want to tie it into the lore, the question of why does the light manifest in the same subclasses for the Hive that they do for us?
Right.
Are they just imitating what they've already seen? Or is this just it's easier to code something that already exists?
Yeah. Like we don't know if that's the inherent nature of the light, or
right. Yeah. Well,
or
it can't be,
or it's just imitation.
It can't be, because we have seen other light bearers, use it in ways that we do not have access to. I mean, perfect example, Osiris, prior to all this, had the ability to make light copies of himself. That he could actually, absorb their experiences, and they could... that's how he explored the Infinite Forest. He sent out hundreds of these echoes of himself.
And that's how it's believed at the Battle of Six Fronts, that he was in multiple
everywhere
places
at once.
The same. Yeah.
Oh, he's okay.
So we know
he's also the only Warlock to use both Dawnblade and Well of Radiance in a single freaking super usage. And I'm just saying right now,
which he then passed that knowledge on to Ikora, who used a Nova Bomb and a Nova Warp
and
all at once.
Warp instantly. And ain't nobody creating orbs out there. Like, she Nova Bombed and instantly went into it. Now, granted, she could have been using Font of Intellect? Font of Wisdom? The one that gives you 50 super?
Yeah.
I get it. There's some things that could happen here. But if she's used, maybe if she's got Nezarec Sin on, maybe that was enough void damage to proc it.
She is pre-nerf Skull of Ahamkara.
That's literally what it is. It's literally what it is. Ikora don't get no nerfs. Osiris don't get no nerfs. I don't want a nerf. No. To kind of swing it back into lore here. So these Hive, like they're very much to me represented at like they're guardians in everything.
Yes.
Short of like they just don't guard the traveler.
Right.
Which is funny because like what do we guard?
The last city, I guess, is the answer.
Right? Like that's like in your head, or at least in my head, it's always seemed to me like we're guardians of the traveler. We're guardians of the light. Like we are guarding this sacred tool and resource and this great unknown. But now,
I did not personally take it that way.
Okay.
The way that I interpreted it, because they refer to other light bearers within the game as things other than guardians. Typically,
right.
There's Risen, or they just call it light bearer.
Light bearers, those are definitely the two.
And like guardian, I have always taken as that was something established by Zavala and Shaxx.
So it's more
and
as more of like a Vanguard thing, like more of a
Yep.
like a commander title.
That was how I took it, as like
okay,
the Guardians guard the last city of humanity.
Sure, I could see that. Yeah.
Now I don't know that there's anywhere that like proves that interpretation, but that has just been my personal view on it.
No, I could totally see that. Yeah, absolutely.
But so yeah, but rolling back around to the throne world. Say, give me just a moment here.
I know this train has just. I don't know. This train has traveled more than like 10 feet this whole time. We just keep switching tracks.
But we're spinning those wheels so damn hard.
We're trying to.
So the throne world and how the appearance of the throne world give us a lot of hints.
Yes.
So Sabathun's throne world is described by one of the devs in I believe it's the gameplay trailer that took place after the cinematic trailer. They describe it as Sabathun's ideal world. It was created in her own image. It is the future world that she wanted to create, built atop the darkness she left behind. It is a city bathed in light in the center of a swamp of darkness. So what this tells me is that presumably Sabathun's ideal world for the Hive, for her people, is a world where they're not beholden to the light or the dark, or where they are using the light and have abandoned the dark. I can see either interpretation.
That second one is more what it seems like to me. Like to be said to have a city bathed in light, built on the remnants of the darkness. Like even that sentence there to me says, like either A, they have drank of the dark and they're sick of it and they're like, we want the light now because the light is everywhere and the light is awesome and praise the light. Or like I don't see it as like a I don't know if I see it as like them using the light, or if it's more of like we are free of the dark. I think it's more the second one there than the first.
Yeah, and based on some of the other dialogues we've seen come from Sabathun, I do not think she has any intention of becoming of trading one master for another. She doesn't want to. Okay, I don't want to follow the dark anymore. I want to become a guardian of the traveler, or I want to behold myself to the light. No, she wants to be above all of it.
Yeah.
She wants to control and use whatever is within reach to make herself be above it all.
Yeah.
Has been my interpretation. But the way that she's built this throne world is very interesting, because the throne worlds are completely theirs to do as they wish with. Like the throne world looks and feels however the creator wanted it to, which is interesting.
In a similar aspect as the distributary was to Mara.
Yeah, a little bit. Not exactly the same, because everything that we have learned, and maybe this is false, but everything we have learned about the distributary is that it is a completely separate entity in and of itself, with a gateway between, soul and there.
A physical gateway. Like everything about
like
the Ascendant Plane to me,
thing you pass through.
Right, and everything for the Ascendant Plane to me, I've always read that as like a tear in space-time.
So, I don't have that interpretation personally.
Okay.
They did an interesting way of describing things. Actually, it was Mara at the beginning of the season. She said, "Think of the Ascendant Plane. Think of the Ascendant Plane and our realm as two coins stacked atop each other."
Oh yeah.
Where the Ascendant Plane is the bottom coin and ours is the top. And everything in between is these they refer to it as the Sea of Screams in the Books of Sorrow.
Okay.
But it's everything. It's like the passageways between our world and the Ascendant Plane, our two realities.
Okay.
If we use the same analogy, I see the distributary as another coin stacked on top of those two. So distributary is, does not touch the Ascendant Plane, but it does touch our reality, and then our reality touches the Ascendant Plane.
That's it. Okay.
That was kind of how I was thinking of it.
Yeah. No, I can get on board with this one.
Because we know that you
each
can
coin
traverse.
being almost like each coin almost being a different, not quite 100% different reality, but like
no,
a slight variation of the reality before it until you get to the final one, where now it's a completely new reality.
So yeah, and part of me wonders if it's variations of each other. Part of me wonders if they're going for the more kind of like Norse approach of Midgard, Asgard.
Yeah.
I forget what the other one, Niflheim.
Yes.
But like where they're different realms that are connected to each other, but they all are a very distinct like form of existence.
Yeah.
But regardless, when Oryx built his throne world, which essentially was the Dreadnought, he in his ideas and his interpretations of what his throne world should be are what formed what we saw.
Yeah.
Oryx is to blame for the dick wall.
Yeah. He absolutely is.
And that
which either
tells
says
me,
a lot about him or says a lot about us. I can't tell which.
I'm gonna choose him.
I'm gonna choose him too.
But that means
I might
that,
choose ourselves.
Yeah. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Well,
and the weapon that he
because...
uses there, that we saw back in D1, that caused that hole in the rings of Saturn. That is he is literally extending his throne world
out
into our reality. And that action is having a physical reaction in our reality.
Yes. And that, I think, is because one of two things. A, like, realities meeting realities is always bad news.
Absolutely.
B, I think he was also, by pushing his throne world out, he was also pushing his influence out. Because, and this is something that one of the devs also say, they say that throne worlds are pocket universes that entities in Destiny 2 create. And while we are there, we have to play by their rules.
Their rules.
So,
and that would make sense too, because that's like when the Techians tried to get Mara to escape. That's how Oryx was able to get through to the Dreaming City. He was able to push his influence into there, and this was also confirmed, I think, in one of the videos. But Oryx is the cause of all the taking in the Dreaming City. It was none of that was done by Sabathun. So Sabathun, as far as we know, has no power to take. Every time we refer to her now, we have referred to her as the Witch Queen. The Witch Queen, not the Taken Queen.
Yeah.
But the Witch Queen. So I think the Taken truly are just lost now. Like they are completely
yes and no. So I absolutely agree. I think she has zero control over the Taken. I think she had some control through Queria, who we have dispatched. And everything seems to point to the fact that we have in fact dispatched her.
Okay.
I mean, unless they pull something out of their hat and they're like, haha, surprise.
Well, Osiris did want Queria's head.
Yeah. And the crown and a lot of things.
Osiris wanted Queria's head to bring back and study it.
Yeah.
Holy shit! I never made that connection.
Yeah, that's scary.
We might not have actually killed Queria.
Maybe not, or might be rebuildable, which is also scary if she knows how to build a Vex.
Get the hell out of here. What is her game, man? Like I keep coming back to this question of what is her end goal? What does she want? What is her purpose?
Well, I think she gives a sliver of that away in the lore card where she is talking to Melkamp.
Yes. I was hoping we were going to touch on this too, because I had that written down.
In the Season of Arrivals.
Yep.
So two things. Excuse me, Melkamp is in Shadowkeep, but in the Season of the Rivals, she talks to Nokris, who I think this also leads into this. She tells Nokris, "The deep fears me as we once feared you. Ignorance keeps, knowledge usurps." So she's speaking to Nokris, who was kicked out of Oryx's kingdom for the heresy of necromancy. But
stripped of everything. Statues
all
were torn down. Oryx said, he is nothing to me. Not even like he's dead to me. He is literally non-existent to me.
Which, alright, tangent inside of a tangent. Is the act of the necromancy that Nokris was doing, and this got me wondering, is the act of the necromancy that Nokris is doing by the sheer fact that it is revival inherently a power of the light? Was Nokris using light energy to resurrect Hive? Which again would lead into...
That's the only instances of actual revival that we have. Because when we talk about, like, when we kill a Hive, like, they just eat... When we shoot a Hive in-game, we're just killing a form. The little worm that pops out, what is the actual Hive. So we're killing what's left of a krill.
Yeah, so there's two. There's the krill, and then the worm inside. So we are killing the krill, who is its own being. And then the worm itself, presumably dies as well because its host is gone.
But the soul, and I'm putting that in quotation marks, of the Hive just retreats back to the Ascendant Plane. Or is that only for the Ascendant?
I think that's only if they have become powerful enough to become an Ascendant Hive.
To create their own throne world. Okay.
I think that's literally what it is they are a Hive with access to the Ascendant Plane, therefore they are Ascendant Hive. I think is how that works.
Okay. I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But so she's telling Nokris here, the deep fears me. She is saying the darkness, the entity, is afraid of me, is afraid of what I'm doing, in the same way that we as the Hive once feared what you were doing. Which tells me, like, Sabathun is trying to commit a heresy, or something on that level to the darkness.
Absolutely.
Which the removal of her worm, I think, would count.
So we're going to touch on this worm here in a sec.
the bit that she says here, ignorance keeps, knowledge usurps. So that tells me that the deep is afraid specifically of her discovering some knowledge somewhere. Like, the darkness is afraid of her learning something because it thinks, based on her words, that it would give her the power to usurp the darkness, to assume a higher role.
Holy shit.
And this leads into the Shadowkeep lore, where she's talking to Malkamp. Prior to Malkamp's execution, Malkamp was a loyalist of, I believe, Oryx or Crota.
I think so. I think it was a loyalty of a loyalist of Oryx directly.
Yeah. So Sabathun tells essentially this prisoner on death's row. So she doesn't really have a reason to lie, I wouldn't think. She tells Malkamp that she is that Sabathun is trying to ensure that the final ending does not come to pass. And that was a very interesting point because she tells Malkamp very similarly to how Callus tells us. Like, I have seen the end. I have seen the ending of all things. I have seen what this final ending is. And Malkamp makes the statement of, oh, you are trying to make sure you're all that, that you're the one that wins in the end. And she's saying, no, I'm trying to stop it from ending. Which almost paints her in a, like, cosmically good area.
This is like... this is like brain exploding. Now, does she... Do you remember if Malkamp uses the word final existence, or does he use the words final shape? Because that is incredibly relevant now.
Sabathun calls it the final ending.
The final ending, okay.
The final ending.
Although
I think that is synonymous with the final shape.
I was going to say, we know as Guardians that we have 2 expansions left in the Light versus Darkness saga. We have Lightfall, and we have the final shape.
The final shape.
That's what we have as far as names. We have no other information other than that. We could spin foil all day long about both of those. But if the final shape and the final end are synonymous to both Callus's version of the end of the universe, of the end of all things, and Sabathun's understanding of the end of all things, then that's big.
Yes.
That's huge.
So what I'm reading from both of these is that Sabathun knows how things, knows the trajectory that we are on and the ending of that trajectory, and for reasons unknown, be it just pure like survival instinct of herself or some kind of benevolence or aspirations to power, she does not want the universe to end.
Yeah.
And she has, at least in her attempts to prevent that ending, has made the darkness, the entity, the darkness, worried enough to fear some kind of knowledge that she may uncover, which implies that there is a way for her to do what she's trying to do.
Yeah, she can, and Jesus. So real quick, do you have that lore card pulled up?
The Malkamp one?
Yeah. Because there's a line in there that talks about 3 things and the truth. And I can't remember what that one is off the top of my head. But there's a specific line in there where she talks about death, time, and space, and then ignorance.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up here.
Because that's so that's her. While you're looking that up, I'm going to kind of touch a few subjects here. We keep talking about her worm. Like she was gifted a worm from the worm gods at the bottom of the ocean of Fundament, or the center of Fundament.
They refer to it, I think, as the bottom of the ocean, but They also refer to that ocean as the deep.
Yeah.
So
it might not have even
exactly
been
what that means.
It like Fundament itself could be the deep, the place. Like,
yeah, there's a lot we don't know about Fundament.
Anyway, so she's gifted this worm, and as is her at the time her two sisters, Alrix and I don't remember Ztories' original name. Hell, I don't even remember Sabathune's original name.
I don't know.
But they're gifted these worms, and because of these worms, the worms are tied to something, and the worms have to feed off of something. So in Oryx's case, it was, I believe, knowledge.
Yes.
The worm itself had to feed off of knowledge. So Oryx had to learn everything that like he had a hunger for knowledge because his worm, it fed his worm, much in the way that in Ahamkara feeds off of desire, not wishes specifically desire. It actually feeds off desire itself. Ztories fed off of war, if I'm right.
Yeah, she's referred to as the Hive God of War. I don't know if it's that her worm just feeds off conflict or violence or something that would pertain to her being a warmonger of sorts.
Right. And Sabathune's is deception. It actively feeds off deception. And that hunger from that worm, Sabathun, there's very, I don't want to say there's a lot of references, but there's a few instances where Sabathun is trying to find ways to feed that worm forever, to basically extend the hunger of it, and to where she doesn't, it's not doing anything detrimental to her. And the two instances that I can remember specifically, one of them being the Dreaming City battery, where Quoria, she uses Quoria, and Quoria's ability to manipulate time, put the Dreaming City in a 3-week loop. Or, now, again, some of this is being pulled from Truth to Power. We don't know how true that Truth to Power book is.
Right, yeah.
We have been told that Quoria was used to create a time loop for the Dreaming City to put it into that 3-week cycle of low curse, medium curse, high curse. Specifically, so that way it'll keep resetting and keep feeding everything we kill in there. Is the lie of that the deception of what is actually happening here is what's feeding the worm. It's not that we're killing Taken and the Taken are feeding the worm. It's not like the souls of everyone that dies there is feeding the worm. It's not the time itself is feeding the worm. It's the lie or the deception of, we don't even know what this battery is doing, that is feeding the worm.
Mm-hmm.
There's ignorance
feeds the worm.
The ignorance itself feeds the worm. And there's another instance where I want to say she tried to create her own pocket reality that could be essentially like the distributary, to do the same thing, to feed, to have everything in the distributary, or her version of it, to feed the worm. Now again, I could be completely wrong in this. I can't remember the exact wording or where I read it at, but the one specific one was the Quoria and the Dreaming City battery, the time loop there. That was that ignorance of, we don't even know why this curse is happening, but that's what's directly feeding her worm.
Yeah, I think that. So I think she's made multiple attempts. What you're referring to before is she essentially like tries to put a thrall in a black hole.
Yes, that's right. That's it.
I'm trying to remember what it was. Essentially, so that the thrall would like be continuously experiencing things at a much different time than her. And one lie being told to the thrall in the black hole would extend for so long outside of the black hole that like it would last a significant amount of time.
That's what it was.
I think what has happened though is that it's backfired on her. I think her two attempts to make an infinite loop, I think she underestimated how much her worm's hunger would grow.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And now, because we know that hunger from that worm it's insatiable. Like,
yes,
there is no end to it. It doesn't matter how long you extend it, it will still want more, and possibly at an exponential rate. We don't know the rate that the hunger grows at.
I think it is exponential, or at least in Sabathun's case, it's seemingly exponential because she accelerated it so much.
Yeah.
Because she tried to get around the rules.
Yep.
You know, the rules of her worm, like, it's coming back to bite her, and now she's just trying to get rid of the thing.
Yep.
Because she doesn't necessarily see it.
So, okay. Put your spinfoil hat on and follow me on this one for just a second.
All right.
If that hunger from that worm is exponential, and she has accelerated it, and she just wants to be free of it and get rid of it, and we know that worm was given to her from creatures that were in the deep, are worm gods inherently of the darkness?
I am of the mindset of yes. And actually, I wasn't even going to get into this topic tonight, but
I told you, man. We tried to condense this down, and it is not getting condensed.
We're on this train. So, my idea at the moment is that the very first entity, there were two paracausal species that were born into existence with the start of Destiny's universe. Yep. The Vex were off doing their own thing as an algorithm. They were unintentional to have carried over
as a non-physical entity. They literally existed in algorithms.
Yes. So the Vex are off doing their own thing, but I think the first intentionally paracausal species that existed in the Destiny universe were the worm gods and on the dark side and the Ahamkara on the light side.
I 100% agree with that.
And I don't say like dark and light as in good and evil and like warring against each other.
Nope.
But they were they were creatures of those abilities. Like they were inherently tied to those powers.
To me, two sides of the same coin.
I mean, they even speak the same. They use the same phrasing.
The O blank mine, that syntax there, both of them speak that way. So that's where I am. Yeah, I'm with you on this 100%.
So guess who else speaks that way though?
Get the Frank out of here.
So in the season, during the Inkblot cinematic, where Sabathun is showing us her version of how much she helped us as Osiris, she refers to us as O Guardian Mine.
Get the Frank out of here.
So that implies
I didn't even catch
a couple
it.
things for me.
I didn't even catch it.
That implies a couple things for me. That phrasing is absolutely significant in the Destiny universe. That something mine.
Yep, 100%.
We don't know exactly what it means, but there's a couple theories floating around. One is that like it's just a way for it's a little flag to signify that like these are beings of, you know, these ancient lineages.
Of ancient lineages or paracausal ancient lineages?
Specifically paracausal ancient lineages.
That's what I think.
The other theory that I've seen that I think does still have some credit to it is that phrasing, for one reason or another, signifies a level of control over who you're saying it to.
Either whether it be ownership or even just as simple as like I don't think it's a physical control. No. I think it is very much a paracausal or metaphysical control over whatever is encased in there. It's almost like and I think it's been described before as like they are caging, since it's O and then blank and then mine. They are literally forming a cage around that thing, and but in a paracausal sense, in a non-physical sense.
Because if we look at it, the Ahamkara say it. The Ahamkara specifically make deals, make wishes that generate are generated off of desire, and they're almost always a do not go as intended.
Yeah.
And that's on one hand, I think that's the Ahamkara's just general personality. On the other hand, I think maybe that feeds into their abilities. Like if they don't satisfy the desire, they can continue to feed off the desire, or they can change it in some way. It
oh my
becomes
god,
a desire
just
to
literally like the worms, literally like the worm's hunger.
Right. Exactly. Except they don't need a
Dude.
host, or they do need a host, but they don't have to inhabit the host.
Because when they came up against Mara and they were like, I can't feed off of this. This is the most starving meal I've ever had. Because Mara has been in that instance of she created an entire world. She has been essentially a god.
She wants for nothing. She knows everything.
There's nothing. She knows everything.
Well, she wants for sure, I know, but
oh my god. Okay. I see what you did there. Well played.
You're welcome.
So, yep. So, as far as like the Ahamkara and the worm gods, I personally think those to be either. No, I'm going to say it this way. I think those are direct creations or descendants of the winnower and the gardener.
I'm going to take it a step further. I think they used to be a single species that branched based on how they wanted to get their meal.
Boom.
Boom. I think it was a single paracausal species that started at the beginning of the universe, and some of them went, I can feed myself via the worms method, and others went, I can feed myself via the Ahamkara's method, the wish magic method. Because there are instances, there's one that's sticking out in my mind, and I do not remember where it was because I did not research any of this as prior to this.
We're a little bit off the rails here, but this is all very relevant.
There was an instance, I think, in the Book of Sorrows where a worm god was referenced as having wings, and it's only that one spot, and it's confused the piss out of everybody because no interpretation of the worm gods that we have seen other than that one instance has shown them having wings or talked about them having wings. Except Ahamkara are very often referred to as dragons, as winged dragons.
Yep.
So maybe that reference was a worm god, was whatever these things started out as in a more primordial form.
I was going to say almost like a larva form or like a teenage form type thing.
Well, not even that, I think, but like before they assumed their physical, they had like their physical aspects had truly split off. If this is from the Book of Sorrows, and I think it is, it could be old enough that like this is when the Ahamkara and the worms still looked somewhat similar, still had some characteristics of each other before they developed into their current physical forms.
So then to me, that feeding process is what makes them look the way they look.
I think that would make a lot of sense.
Because the everything that feeds off the darkness has that sunken skin, that bones showing through, and just muscle and bone, like very, very shriveled up and very close to death or death-like. Whereas like the Ahamkara is almost like the other way. Like they're very much regal. They're very much fat off of
they're
wisdom.
Muscular. Kind of. They're
Yes.
So to really bring this idea home, and I think we are so on point because of this now. So we know Ahamkara can live on, some form of them lives on after death in their bones. because they have literally talked to us through exotics and
through their bones. Yep. The bones
What
above
is Whisper of
Shax,
the Worm?
all that stuff. Oh shit.
Whisper of the Worm is literally pieces of Zol being, and we know his consciousness exists in there because in Season of the Rivals, Nokris reaches out and finds Zol's consciousness on Io, and Zol like runs away from him essentially.
Shit.
So Zol is living in what's left of his physical form via the Whisper of the Worm gun. Ahamkara live in what's left of their physical form in the Ahamkara bone armor. They're the same damn thing.
And Thousand Voices.
And 1K voices, and like it's the same. It's the same.
Holy shit.
So I 110% think that they are the same or very closely related species now.
Dude, this is I don't have any words for this. This like everything we're looking at here points to them being the same species. And I know we've completely gone off the rails of Sabathun, but I swear to God we will come back. This was just a quick detour of like worms and how they talk, and the Ahamkara and how they talk, because both of these things I feel like are very, very relevant moving forward. Mm-hmm. And not only because Sabathun obviously has a worm that works off darkness magic or darkness powers, whatever you want to call it. You showed me a very special thing in Mara's chambers.
Yes. So again, playing that mirror image, the queen of the witch queen, the queen of darkness, has the worm inside of her that thrives off this dark bargain of how it feeds. And then the polar opposite, we have the queen of the awoken, of these people that are of the dark and the light, that are paracausal by nature, that do not need to get it from something else, has what appears to be an Ahamkara egg, as we discussed, the quote-unquote light version of a worm.
Boom. So so I kind of want, because we had a mini discussion. I had a mini breakdown over this little egg when we saw it, and I was just like, oh my god. We as Guardians are genocidal assholes.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Like we are literally the worst. Like I am starting to be like, I don't know if I want to be a Guardian anymore. Sabathun's looking pretty thick over there, and I'm thinking maybe she's got something going on. No. So when you took me to see it, for those of you that don't know, the current season of The Lost, there's an area in it that's called Marasov's chambers, and it is her physical chambers within the Dreaming City. There's a portal that leads there. Very much, it's funny because my stepson referred to it as like a Stargate, and it very much looks like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's being powered by the darkness energy that we're feeding into the umbral decoder, because there's two wires going out there to like a power distribution box, and one of them has lights leading to it, one of them have lights leading away from it. So I don't, that could all just be like whatever. But anyway, so we go in there, and in one of the side chambers that we cannot reach, there is an Ahamkara egg. Like everything about it looks just like the eggs that we saw when Forsaken first came out and we first got to the Dreaming City. And there were these little half black, half white, very much look like Taken eggs. And when you eventually get through the quest chain to get Shir Ido's bow, the Wish Ender, which I may just have that as a staple in my arsenal now. You take this bow around the Dreaming City and throughout the Ascendant Plains and throughout the entire Last Wish raid and even into the Corruption Strike, and you go through and you shoot these eggs. And when you shoot them, it destroys them. I never put two and two together that the eggs are Riven's children. And we went and killed 40 of them before they could even be born with a bow called the Wish Ender.
And they are called Wish Dragons.
It is we are literally ending the wishes of millions of people by destroying one egg. Because we don't know how much that one Ahamkara could have fed off of.
Right? We don't know how much havoc they would have wreaked. Yes. That
is the other half of that thing. Like, yeah, they can grant wishes. It's not like it's. I always use this as my reference, but it's like, I wish for $1 million, and 1 million deer show up in front of you. Or like,
right.
It'd be really nice to have a house full of water, and now you're in the ocean, or your house is in the ocean. You know, like
or you could be Praedyth and wish to never stop fighting, never stop enjoying the thrill of the fight, and get stuck in a Vex time loop machine where they can literally make you fight forever.
For eternity. Well, he enjoyed the fight.
Yeah.
All while doing this, while hunting down Ahamkaras. Yeah. Which now that's something too to be said as far as Ahamkara and so real quick to kind of circle back to the egg thing. Inside her chamber is an egg that looks exactly like the eggs that we destroyed. And when we destroyed them, we always thought of them as corrupted eggs. And I think even the triumph tied to it is called corrupted omelet.
They were literally called corrupted eggs in the text in game, if I recall correctly.
Yep. So the egg that we see in her chamber, we don't know if it's corrupted. We don't know if that's just how they normally look. We've never seen a non-corrupted egg to have a comparison to. All we've ever seen is the corrupted eggs, and it looks identical to that. So we don't know if that is like the last. Like, we always thought as Riven as being the last Ahamkara. There's an egg. Mm-hmm. Egg's got to hatch into something.
Twice Riven.
Oh God. Oh God. And we know, so to kind of tie all of this back into Sabathun, we know that Sabathun at the very beginning of this season, she says, I'll give Osiris back to you and stuff like that, and as soon as you do what I want you to do, I'll give him back. Mara, on the other hand, is like, I want to rip out her worm and kill it. We don't know why she wants to do this. We don't know how she's going to do this. I'm sure by the end of the season we're going to be like, oh my God, we saw it from the beginning! But as of right now, the main theory that I think you and I have both come up with this simultaneously, is that egg is going to hatch and Mara is going to have a desire. Or something is going to have a desire, and something's going to happen.
Keep Crow the hell away from it.
Right? You want to talk about someone with desires.
And I mean, seeing some of the dialogue between him and some of the Awoken court now is just like, I don't know how to feel about it.
I freaking love it.
I mean, from a storytelling perspective, it's amazing. But from a emotional character piece perspective, it's like
it's so hard. So that's the other thing too. Like coming back to kind of like our main talk of like what this podcast was supposed to be tonight. The current season, what we've seen so far. Obviously, Mara's back. There's a Shattered Realm that we get to go visit that has symbols in it that are very, some of them are absolutely the symbols we see on the Wish Wall, and there's a new symbol in there that we have never seen before that combines two of the symbols on the Wish Wall, and it's very, very, very odd that they are like this. So the wish wall is inside the last wish, and it was specifically a means that Mara created to make wishes, essentially, to her Ahamkara, to Riven. And she'd made this wall so that way her wishes cannot be misinterpreted, because she is very untrusting of words, that's just how Mara is, and by the nature of Ahamkaras being as janky as they are, they'll pervert your words just for the hell of it, just to have more desire to feed off of.
Mm-hmm.
So Mara created this wall, and it has symbols on it, and there's 4 sets of 4 symbols each. So there are 16 total symbols. Okay, there's 4 of them that deal with a fish. There's 4 of them that deal with a snake. There's 4 of them that deal with a dragon. There's 4 of them that deal with a bird. And in the Shattered Realm this season, there is a new symbol that is a bird clutching a snake in its claws. As if it's like a raven eating its meal or something, or like an eagle eating its meal or something, you know.
So, to pause for just a moment, if we want to read into that symbolism a little bit, the snake, I could see...
This is where I'm curious, as if you and I are going to go through and learn the actual names for all these symbols, and then when we go through and run some Last Wish, we're going to use those names, and people are going to be like, I don't know what that is!
Well, do they have stated names? Like, are
we don't
they
know.
Referenced in game?
We don't even know
that they are. But no, I was going to say, if we want to take the literal picture, the actual picture of the symbol, and try to apply some logic to what's going on there. The snake, I can see representing a lot of things, honestly. We don't necessarily have a character that is the snake.
No.
I guess you could argue that Sabathun could be the snake, trickery, deception, kind of parroting that whole like original sin from the viper or from the serpent.
Or even like
vibe.
A physical sense, like a snake looks very similar to a worm.
Yeah. So I think if we're gonna assign a representation there, it makes sense that the representation would be Sabathun. The bird, the obvious representation would be Crow.
Oh, shit. They're right. Shit.
So is that Crow attacking Sabathun? Is that representative of Crow being what wins out over her?
Or what if that's the wish?
To end Sabathun? Or to be victorious over her?
What if that is the wish?
So I have another perspective on this, though. So I think the obvious answer is Crow.
Right.
Because he has an innate reason to not only severely dislike Sabathun, but also to want Osiris back.
Right.
However, there's another character that I think has an even stronger motivation for both of those things, who is also represented by a bird, the pigeon, and that's Saint 14.
Shit. Saint 14. Oh, man.
And in
both of these characters have a very, very strong desire to want Sabathun dead.
Yeah, and in some of the alignment, which is the seasonal activity, and some of the alignment dialogue, Saint and Crow are talking to each other, and Crow asks Saint if he has been to see Sabathun in her little crystal cocoon. And Saint says, no, they won't even let me near Mara's throne, like Mara's quarters. So they are very intentionally keeping Saint away. Now, I want him to try and, now and ruin all their plans. Or maybe there's more going on there. Maybe they know someone, or Mara knows someone with a very strong emotional desire should not be in that room.
That was something I'm questioning. How much of the wish magic or even the worm magic, like because I don't know what to call the worm side of the wish magic. Like we've never had a reference of it. The hunger,
right,
that's
yeah.
what, the hunger.
The hunger. Yeah.
How much of the hunger or the wish magic desire hunger, like how much of that is active before the creature has come? I can't say come to life because that there's that whole talk there of like, oh well, it's in an egg, it's alive, like it's breathing. Like no, come to a mature state, and
self-awareness,
again,
maybe.
whatever you want to call it, hatched, fully unembryoed.
If I were to guess, I would say it is certainly not as strong as when it is hatched and it exists in the world outside of the egg. However, if the damn bones of dead ones can have an effect over people, I don't see why there's any reason why the living, unborn body of one can't also have some effect on people.
And that's the question there. Like, if Saint enters that chamber and has that desire, does that egg that's sitting off on the side, is it able to feed off of that? Is it able to make that wish come true, or make that desire happen?
And thinking about that, the only two things in Mara's quarters, Mara has no guards on the inside.
Nothing.
So other than us who she allows to enter, the only other things in her quarter near that egg are her, who we know canonically cannot be fed off of, and Sabathun, who maybe also can't be fed off of because she already is feeding
she
her
has
worm.
the worm. Oh shit! Because we don't even know if the worms or the Ahamkars can feed off of each other.
Right, and it makes sense
if they're the single. Yes, if they're come from the single species, then they can't inherently feed off each other. Holy shit! Now, no. Okay, so after you complete the Shattered Realm, there is now a Techian.
Okay, that's true. Her. I forgot about that.
So we know that the Techians are very. Mara straight up said, "You're in charge of everything. You're in charge of magic. You're in charge of paracausal stuff. That because obviously in the distributary they had the scientists, they had all that to work out science. When they got back, before she was even queen, she told her Techians, her UTechs at the time, you are in charge of magic. Figure it out."
Yeah, well, and we know that they have some experience with wish magic because they're the ones that helped her build the wish wall.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, they know the risks of having a desire or a want.
Yes, because of the two that were in the chamber that were setting the bombs to blow it.
Yep, that's exactly it. So they know what they can be fed off of, but they kind of know how to counteract that if they are being mindful of it.
Do you remember that lore card off the top of your head? Which one that is?
So I don't remember which one it was. The one I was thinking of was after the Awoken Fleet is destroyed by Oryx.
Yep.
There are 3 Techians. It's Ilian and 2 others that I'm forgetting the names of. Go to in the Dreaming City. They go to we think like a taken blight of some sort, and we're using it to connect to the darkness in the Ascendant Realm to try to go find the other Techians that had been taken. Yep. And when they found one of them, there was a want for that Techian to return to her original form, and Riven essentially, like, metaphysically ate them alive for it.
Yep. So I've pulled it up. It's part of the Awoken of the Reef, and it's the book. The specific lore one is called Ilian, and so they like they're in that area right there, and it's I'm trying to find the other name. They're talking about how Petra was right. Guardians will wear anything that gives them power, whether it be taken or tactical or even social Like if it gives Guardian power, they'll use it. And Nasia, Nascia is the other Techian with her. And so they are, let's see here. So it says, together they unfold the taken thing's brutally elegant interior geometries, seeking the threads of connection that reach out across space and time. Shuro, so Shuro Chi is there. Ilan whispers, we have heard you, or no, she's not there, sorry. Shuro, Ilan whispers, we have heard you, do you hear us? Because Shuro Chi, Callie, and I keep forgetting the third one.
I know, I do too.
Sadia,
yep.
Those three are with Mara on her ship as it's being attacked, as the fleet is attacking. And then it says, and this is the part that's super important. That is when she makes the fatal mistake. She thinks of the time before Saturn. She thinks of Shuro Chi and Uldren and Mara. She wants that time back. She wants. In the non-space around them, the great jaws snap shut. Riven, one of the Techians screams. Ilan was prepared for taken. Folded perfect things, elegant and thus manageable. But this absolute appetite, this impossible will, she speaks the secret word of stasis that will crash their augments and end the communication. She does not know if she is in time. All of them are screaming. The screaming has begun again. So that feeding, like she can deal with Taken. Like we know that Techian, they Taken they're a non-issue. But Riven, something that can feed off that desire, you can't.
No. And
it's an absolute appetite, an impossible will.
Which just further reinforces our idea of the two, of the hunger of the worms and the
exponential
appetite,
exponential hunger.
And I should have picked up on this earlier. Again, we can see Riven is the only named Ahamkara we've ever come across. So
yep.
They could have all have been named in this manner, but we have Riven of 1,000 voices and Zol, the Will of Thousands.
Oh my
very
God.
Similarly named. It all matches up.
Oh my God! I've never put those two together.
They've been staring us in the mouth.
In the face.
I haven't,
this whole time.
I haven't even thought about it all that much until just now.
Holy crap. Okay, so I've got, let's see, we're almost 2 hours into this.
Yeah, we should probably.
Yeah. So real quick,
closings. Yeah.
Were you able to find that Malcamp lore card?
Unfortunately, I was not. I had searched for Sabathun, and it didn't show up under Shadowkeep or Season of Arrival, so I'm not sure where it is.
It might be back at D1, but that's okay. The three things I wrote down here was death, time, and space. And while she's talking to Malcamp, while Sabathun is talking to Malcamp, she talks about how death can be perverted. We see this in the Guardians.
Yeah.
They die over and over again, and then they can be risen. Time can be manipulated if you know the right, if you have the right tools and know the right math. We know this because of the Vex. Space can be shaped and moved through and can't remember the words she used, but basically we can see that in black holes, in the distributary, in pocket universes, in ascendant realms, all of that. And the one thing she says that struck me, that was like, okay, she said, ignorance is constant. Ignorance is truth. And that to me was when those words, ignorance is truth. And when we think of things like everything, truth is a funny thing. Like it, does it live in the mind? Does it live in the world? Is it like all of that? And then like the lore book, that's the trickery lore book is called Truth to Power, and it's all about this story, and then there's a story hidden inside the story, and then there's there's a Vex simulation inside of a Vex simulation inside of a story. Like it's so interesting, and it's funny because the very last paragraph of Truth to Power I really like too, and it says, do you know what the Hives say when they want to express the inevitability of a thing? When they want to say it is this way because it could be no other way. Ayat. A-I-A-T.
And we've seen that in a couple places.
Tons of places. Oryx has used it tons of time, like, and him being the worm god of knowledge, like that's huge. Like that is just like, and for that to be in Truth to Power, like that almost makes me think that parts of Truth to Power are the way they are because they have to be that way, because they will always be that way. And so that's what, like, parts of Sabathun are that way because she has to be that way. Like, she just inherently has to be that way.
As long as she has her worm.
Yes! Yes!
So, on that note, we're going to pause real quick, mostly for a technical thing. So give me just a second, and we can start back up. Okay, we all good.
Okay.
So, we've gone on for, we've about got our two-hour block here, and I know we could talk the rest of the night away very easily. But is there any kind of final things we want to touch on before we wrap it up for the evening?
Nothing I can think of. I do have a personal story I'd like to share. But I know Eclipse, our producer, who's streaming this. Thank you so much, Eclipse. I think you're in the group with everyone running a Vulcan class right now.
I am.
Do you have any questions for us, or do you know if the guys have any questions for us?
No, we're too busy raiding.
That's what I figured. That's okay. I was gonna have just like a little bit of a Q&A session here, but I as soon as I started like this happens every week. As soon as we start getting into one of these topics, Myth and I both realized, this will cover 2 hours. So this being myths and stories, like I said, I like starting it with a myth, and so I kind of want to finish on a story, a personal story myself. So several years ago was when I lost my dad. He was everything to me. Like I was very connected to my dad. He went out on his Sunday motorcycle ride, and another driver cut him off, and he died in the helicopter ride to the hospital, which left me very lost, without any type of guiding figure or anything like that in my life. And so I feel like I wandered around a lot, like just in life in general. And over the last year, I've been able to make these connections with Mythborn, with Eclipse, with Tian Italiano, Big Scotty, all these guys that are in our raid group, and our clan as a whole. And I absolutely love that I have, I don't want to say a guiding purpose anymore, but it, a connection of friends that I can share experiences with, and that bring me joy. So in a weird sense, and this is meant in no way, any one way or another, Eclipse, our producer, I have started to almost see as like the dad of our group, because he'll do like little dad things or little like dad sayings,
I am old.
He'll reel me in. he'll he'll reel me in when I'm getting too loud or too excited about something, and or he'll have that one little like completely quiet the whole night, and then something will happen and have this one little saying that I will lose it for like an hour and a half. Like I'll be rolling around on the floor laughing so hard, and so to kind of back this up a little bit as far as like people. The first one, first, I always like ending this with a thank you. So the very first one I'd like to thank is Big Scotty, because without Big Scotty, I would not have ever found any of you guys. Before we started running with everyone, with Tia Italiano and Keyston and Eclipse and Myth, it was just me and Scotty, me, Scotty, and Mystic Penguin. We had our own little 3-man group. We had been together kind of since the last days of D1 and all the way through D2, and everyone kind of took that break around Curse of Osiris and Warmind, and then when Forsaken started coming back, we started running we started having a Saturday raid group, just because we're all normal human beings with normal lives, and we kind of like we're like, it's a Saturday, I don't want to go to the lake because it's hot, let's run a raid. So we're all also nerds in that sense, which is awesome. Because typically everyone wanted to run a raid at like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just like, I'm not staying up. Anyway, so first off, thank you to Big Scotty for bringing me and bringing me around and introducing me to all of these fine people of the NOM clan. Thank you, Mark. I know I said Mark, but thank you, Eclipse, for being the dad figure of the group. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for being our producer, whether it be unofficial or official. I don't care anymore.
You're
really
welcome.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mythborn, for having this love of stories with me, like to want to go down all these paths, to just theorize and just ramble and just go. I know typically you're the one telling the stories and I'm the one asking the questions, but I think every once in a while we make these connections instantly in the stories, and we have these aha moments even in these podcasts that are just like mind blowing, and I absolutely love that feeling. I thank you. It does mean a lot to me. Thank you to my beautiful wife here. If you don't get a chance to say you're welcome, take that.
Okay.
Thank you to my beautiful wife, Mystic Penguin 15, who is everything to me. She is the reason I wake up. She's the reason I go to bed. She's usually the reason why I get kicked out of the house every once in a while because I snore too loud. But yeah, she means everything to me, and everything I do is for her. Thank you to everyone else who tuned in. Thank you to all the clan members. I know everyone's running VOG right now. So, thank you, Tia and Italiano, for letting me spend a lunch with you, down in Houston when I was able to come down, and actually get to meet you in person. That was a freaking awesome experience. I think anytime that you get to meet someone that all you have is kind of like a picture and a voice in your head, like that's all you really have of anyone online, but to sit and have just a meal and an interaction, even as short as it was, and I had to get going pretty fast after lunch, and I think he had to get back to work at the time. So that was an awesome experience. Absolutely love that. I'm actually honestly hoping that we can someday do that someday with the entire clan or something like at a Guardians Con or Games Con or something like that. That I think would be cool. But thank you to Keyston for always telling me that I'm not doing maximum DPS and I'm not running meta. Because that will continue to make me run non-meta stuff. And then, of course, thanks to everyone else that tuned in tonight. I know Seraph, Tyrant, Alpha was in here for a little while. I know, but thank you, everyone.
And I think it's only right if I extend a thank you to you as well, because you are half of everything that we do every Monday. And I am very grateful to have somebody that likes to nerd out on this stuff just as much as I do. And whether it continues to be just kind of for us in our group, or becomes who knows what, I hope we can keep doing it for some time yet.
Years and years and years and years. We'll make our own pocket universe, and we'll do this for eternity.
There we go. Yeah. But I think on that note, we are signing off for the night.
Yes. I've been trying to think of a good ending, I want to do like an Eyes Up Guardian or something, or keep that lore in your heart or something, like something cheesy or something. We'll come up with something eventually. But thank you everyone for listening tonight.
Thank you, and we will catch you all next time.
It is too quiet.
All right.
I
think that's enough time to stop the recording. I've stopped mine.
Yeah. Yeah. 2 hours is pretty decent.
Yeah.
Man, these connections, Will of a Thousands and Thousands, that one alone is like, that's the thing. And then that's the thing, man. That is the thing.
You do understand that I'm going to have to listen to this for like the next 5 days at that same level of intensity.
It is. I'm going to be that excited for the next 5 days.
I'm going to stick him outside on the deck for the rest of the night.
We made a connection between the Worm Gods and the Ahamkara.
Just saying.
And we're pretty sure that they are born, they at some point in time were a single entity or a single species, and that the way that they feed has brought them down 2 different paths of light and dark. Not good and bad, just light and dark. One feeding off desires,